Joined by TSN OverDrive host Bryan Hayes, and the Bills currently own the AFC East with 4 straight division titles. And according to our friends at FanDuel, Buffalo is once again the favorite to win the division. But the Dolphins have an explosive offense under Mike McDaniel, tied for the most touchdowns last season. The Jets are optimistic that a fully healthy Aaron Rodgers will lead them to the promised land. That said, Hayes, do you think the Bills are still the best team in the AFC East?
I don't think they're the prohibitive favorites, or they should be in my mind, regardless of what FanDuel might say. I don't think they're the definitive best team in the AFC East, but I do think there's a chance for a 3-way tie going into the season. You mentioned it. They've won this division 4 years in a row. When Brady left, Belichick fell off. The Pats owned this division for a long time. It was clear-cut. This is the Bills' division. And to their credit, they seized that and they owned that. A couple of years ago, they were the Super Bowl favorites going in, regardless of what Kansas City was doing. I don't see that anymore because of the turnover on both sides of the ball. A lot of veterans on the defensive side. Jordan Poyer is obviously out. Micah Hyde is out. Tre'Davious White, who's had injury problems and hasn't factored in much recently, but he's been there a long time. Long-standing captains on the defensive side of the ball. They're out. They're trying to turn that over. And we know Stephon Diggs not there anymore. Gabe Davis not there anymore. This will be a challenge for Josh Allen to get on the same page with new receivers and a bit of a different look offense. I still have a lot of faith in them. I think they're a playoff team, but I think the Dolphins are a really good team. The Jets, it's going to come down to the Achilles of one man, the Achilles of Aaron Rodgers. If it is healthy and he can find a rhythm, they have a great defense. They do have weapons. So I think it could be a 3-headed monster in the AFC East. I might lean Bills as a slight favorite because of their recent history, but they've lost a lot of pieces there. And you look at the first half of last season, it wasn't great. To their credit, they came on in the second half, but I think they have to prove themselves again. I don't think this is the same situation we found the Bills in 2 years ago.
You know, I don't know if the Bills have the best offense in the AFC or they have the best defense, but they might have the best combination of those two. And then so much of it, as you say, has to do with Aaron Rodgers. How's Mike Williams going to hold up? You know, how are their veteran tackles? They're bringing in 33-year-old tackles on both sides of the ball. Mm-hmm. Are those guys going to stand up all season? But I think you can make the argument that Miami has, going into the season, the best offense. When you look at them, you know, adding Jonnu Smith at tight end, when they're adding Odell Beckham Jr. with what they already have and the way they sync up with Tua, that may be the best offense in the AFC East. The Jets, I think statistically over the last 2 seasons, you can certainly make a compelling case that they have the best defense. Mm-hmm. But I'm not sure New York's offense makes up for where the gap between them and Buffalo, and I'm not sure that Miami's defense can make up for the defense the Buffalo Bills have. And I know they got some transition at safety, but Sean McDermott as a head coach, going back to his days in Carolina and Philadelphia, and look at where Jordan Poyer and Micah Hyde came from. Those were not high draft picks. Those were not huge pedigree guys. Those were guys they picked up on free agency and turned into stars. So I think they're going to be able to replace the middle of that defense and stay to be efficient.
I think that's reasonable to have that faith in both Sean McDermott and Brandon being the GM down there. They've done a really good job in Buffalo. They might be getting out before you realize they had to get out, right? That's the job of the GM and the head coach, to realize those players might be on their last legs.
Yeah, a lot of these are chosen moves.
Absolutely. They cut these guys, a lot of them, right? Like they decided we have to move on. So obviously they see something there. And McDermott, as you know, much maligned at times in Buffalo and throughout the NFL. He's a conservative coach. He gets crushed for what he does on the offensive side of the ball, but he needs to get love for what he does on the defensive side of the ball. So I agree with your assessment. I think their defense will be good. I think it could be a top 10 defense. The offense, with the weapons going, this is going to come back to Josh Allen, right? And we keep talking about controlling the ball. He threw 18 interceptions last year. That needs to come into check. I don't know if they're going to be a run-and-gun offense like they have been at times in the past. I don't know if they're going to be looking – obviously, they don't have Diggs anymore. So how is he going to adjust to possibly a bit of a different offense like you've referenced here, which I think most people are planning for? That could be an adjustment. But I think – again, you look at where the Bills are at, you look at where Miami's at, you look at where the Jets are at. I'm not sure I love any of these teams. I think I like them, and I think they have high ceilings, but the Bills have been in this position before. Again, a lot of this league in 2024, as you know, Dave, is who's your quarterback, who's your coach. Do you trust both? And I do trust both in the regular season.
I'll also go there and say, who's your offensive line? And the Bills have made a couple of changes on their offensive line, but these are changes by design. I mean, they did not miss a man game to injury in the offensive line last year, which is unheard of in the NFL.
Probably not going to happen again.
Probably not going to happen again. But when you look at the bringing back, obviously, Allen and that offensive line, the thing that's so curious and I'm fascinated by is there is one receiver who's ever caught a pass from Josh Allen. Like, one of the most prolific passers in football has one guy who's ever caught a live pass from him. Now, the tight ends have, obviously, Dalton Kincaid, who I think is going to have a huge year and maybe the focus of this offense, which is going to give them a very different look. Dawson Knox as well. But it's Khalil Shakir and 4 or 5 guys who've never caught a ball from Josh Allen. And I think that's the dynamic that may determine as much as anything whether the Bills are repeating again.
I think it's kind of shades of what the Chiefs were talking about going into last season, right? Where they're turning over the wide receiver position. Happened in Green Bay in the past as well, where they moved on from veterans and said, we have to trust the process, trust our drafting, trust who we're going to sign in free agency, and trust that we have a quarterback that can make that comfortable. And ultimately, that's the job of Josh Allen. And I got a lot of faith in Allen. I love the way he plays. I'm not saying anything. That's not a hot take.
No.
Everyone understands what he's capable of doing. And I think this is going to be a challenging year for him. It's going to put him on a platform where he's got to prove he can elevate everyone around him, including guys he's not familiar with necessarily when it comes to the ball being kicked off week 1. But if he can do it, we'll look back on this chat and say, why maybe did we doubt they can get to 11 or 12 wins? But again, we'll see what the Dolphins can do down the stretch. I don't trust Tua on the road in November and December. I don't really trust the Achilles of Aaron Rodgers. So it is on the Jets and the Dolphins to get there. But we'll see what happens this year.
No Stephon Diggs in Buffalo. That may be a good thing. There were certainly times where it felt like Josh Allen felt like he had to just get his targets to Stephon Diggs. That burden will not be part of the mix in Buffalo this season. The Bills are one of only 2 teams to win at least 10 games and clinch a playoff berth in each of the last 5 seasons. The other, the reigning 2-time Super Bowl champion, Kansas City Chiefs.